God's story, your life. Unfolding short stories.
The Bible talks a lot about art, and it seems like there are endless expressions of what art could be, whether that's in the work that we do every day or the songs that we sing or the creations that we create. A child marks crayon on construction paper and hands it to their parent, and it makes us feel something. God made us in his image, right? And we know that the Creator is one of his titles. It's how the Bible starts. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Even here on The Unfolding, with our use of storytelling, there's definitely an art to it. Ever since the beginning of The Unfolding, the phrase, even Jesus used parables, has been front and center. My name's Jason Racco. I produce The Unfolding, and even for me, with what I do, there's an element of art with the audio production, the sound effects, the use of the voices, and just putting it together from week to week. And the way that a lot of people think about art is something that I'm personally passionate about. So today I want to share a short story with you about a guy from across the pond. And you might resonate with some of what he's talking about. His name is John. John's going to share a little bit about being an artist as a Christian, what that means to him. We're also going to hear a little bit about an animation project that John's a part of. It's got a zany title, and it's kind of a zany concept. It's called Jazz Cow. Here's John.
As a child, I really loved art. I loved drawing. I loved illustration. I loved all of that stuff. I told stories. I made up things with my brothers. And it was something that I always felt, this is what I should be doing. And when I'm not doing it, I'd always feel frustrated that I'm not doing it. End up going to art school. After art school, I did lots of jobs just to earn money. And we ended up starting a company. A group of us found that we could pitch for larger projects if we worked together. So that's what we did. We got a number of music videos and thought, yeah, we're great at this. And then it all became a lot harder and we thought, how are we going to earn money? So then we had to start learning about the business side of things, which we've never really got. But anyway, we're alive. And so that was one track of life. And then as a Christian, I was always trying to put together the kind of artistic life and that of a Christian, because I find that a lot of Protestant art has become quite propagandistic, or it's just there to sell a message, and that's not really what art is. And so I was struggling to put those things together, and I ended up reading a lot of people like Francis Schaeffer and various other things, because Christians would often quote to you, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is worthy, think upon those things. But good storytelling involves things that are very dark, things that many wouldn't consider worthy or whatever. And you see those things in the Bible, so it's not like they were just invented out of nowhere. And so in a story, you have to go through those dark bits to get to the light bits. And sometimes you'd get people go, oh, you've got to be careful with depicting things because it shouldn't be idolatry. And again, we've got God tells them to make the temple beautiful. God says, don't make idols. And the next thing he tells them to do is make the Ark of the Covenant. Clearly, they're not the same thing. I've had those kind of two parallel paths and ended up having to think about it quite a lot because of things that people have said to me over the years. And I guess in kind of every Hollywood film, or all the kind of Disney type ones anyway, they will say, follow your heart. And if you just follow your heart, you will end up dead probably within a couple of weeks. And then you've got a lot of Christians who go, we should be rational. We should do what the scriptures say. Or I won't do anything unless I'm prompted by the Holy Spirit. And I think you need to back up your heart with some rational stuff. You can't just do whatever you feel like. The Bible talks about how our heart is deceptive, but also our reason is deceptive. And we need to trust God and follow God. There is always a combination of those things that work together. But I do feel there's a calling, and that I would say I have a calling to create stories. I want to be a voice in the world and not just being scared of what the world does, but engaging with it. There can often be this thing with media. There's this kind of Christian oppositionalness. The media is corrupt, or artists are just this, and they've got all these kind of stereotypes, and some of them may have some truth to them. But when you work in this field, you meet people across the board and they're lovely people, and they might not share your worldview. In fact, their worldview might be really different, but you've got to work together. and you'll find that they're honest, decent people that you can share life with. So one of the projects that we've been working on is a project called Jazz Cow, and Jazz Cow goes back actually many years. It started with a group of us who were having a laugh about superheroes and just being silly. And it's quite amazing how many things just come out of a group so it's not a singular person sitting and being inspired, but actually having some fun with others. And as we were being silly and talking about this stuff, one of the guys drew this picture of us, this cow. And the next morning we looked at it and we were just like, this is hilarious. We've got to make this. And so we thought, well, we've got this jazz playing cow. What is the opposite of a jazz playing cow? Jazz is freedom. What's the opposite of freedom is tyranny. What does tyranny look like in our world? And tyranny was, at the time we were talking about it, was very much the kind of media moguls who control how people think, and very kind of technocratic, top-down view of the world, which is opposite to jazz, which is one which is all about listening to one another and giving people space to do their solos, and the almost competitive nature of working together so we were really pushing the opposite way. And then as we revisited the idea more recently, it's become even more clear where you've got technocratic leaders. They have worked out the most effective way to get people hooked. The colors of the like buttons, the idea of a like button, all these things have got people hooked, and they turned us into guinea pigs with data effectively, and used our data to use it almost against us. And so that seemed the most fitting bad guy for a jazz playing cow, and his resistance is to that, because all he wants to do is spend time with his friends, look at the sunset, play music, play chess, enjoy food, all the things that the algorithm is almost fighting against.
So jazz is obviously an art form. I'm a visual abstract artist myself, and I see jazz as really similar on the music side of things. It's abstract. But I'll be honest, jazz has never done it for me. But John just talked about something here that I think is really worth emphasizing.
Spend time with his friends, look at the sunset, play music, play chess, enjoy food, all the things that the algorithm is almost fighting against.
I love all of these things. In fact, I've recently taken up chess. I love making food. I love the food from different cultures. I love smoking meat, trying to perfect a dish. John also mentioned sunsets. My latest painting was a sunset. And when John lists those few things off, I really resonate with that short list. When he mentions that the algorithm is fighting against it all, I resonate with that too. My phone is an extension of me. I probably play too much PlayStation 5. And even though when I'm creating art, which feels a lot better than those things, I care too much about the Instagram likes. When I think about the food, the things that we eat, the loads of ingredients in our food, I can tell you, I don't have the same feelings of joy as when, let's say, my brother gives me a bushel of the fresh fruit that he grew from his tree. Pawpaws, apples, pears, peaches, plums. To me, I think this all kind of speaks back to the beginning of art. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. So maybe fighting against the algorithm is more important than what it initially sounds like. Maybe there's a takeaway, and maybe good art makes us have takeaways. Maybe there's something to be said about being bringers of the kingdom.
One of the things that has made this project feel like this is the one to pursue is that it's resonated with so many different people from so many different backgrounds. And then so many people have been keen to come on the team, people who are serious people within the industry. And when I've just talked to people, they get it. And they didn't a few years ago. And so that's been one of the things like, yeah, this really does need to happen. And then in terms of the Kickstarter, it's always terrifying doing something like that because you don't know if you're going to get anyone give money. But since it's gone live, I've had a message from someone that ended up in a Zoom call which means that he wants to introduce me to a whole load of people, meaning that people are much more excited to talk. So I think that says something. There's a quote from C.S. Lewis where he talks about not more little books about Christianity, but more little books by Christians on subjects with Christianity latent. And I feel like there is this kind of Christian subculture of films about Christianity or Christian films, and Jazz Cow is not that. But I would say there's an element of Christianity being latent because it comes out of us. I think there's a number of us on the team, although it's not all Christian, that are Christians. And I think we're dealing with much more universal ideas. I think the idea of there's kind of jazz leadership where it's more servant leadership rather than this kind of very heavy top-down thing. The tension of the unity and diversity and how that's expressed in the kind of jazz world versus the tech world, I think just it's good for everybody to be freed from addiction to tech. It's not a healthy existence. But there's all sorts of themes come out. I think so often Christians are almost trying to force it in from the top, and it becomes quite propagandistic. And I don't think that's particularly helpful. But if you are a Christian and you're genuinely living a Christian life, then Christian ideas will bubble up naturally. And sometimes I feel like we just need to trust that that will happen rather than try to force anything.
John mentioned Philippians 4:8. Finally, brothers, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is commendable, think about these things. I know what John was saying about Christian art. I'm sure there's an understanding and appreciation for all art, but this is certainly a conversation about art that I hear a lot of, especially from artists. I really do get it. Maybe you've had some of those conversations before. Maybe there's just something about being too on the nose, you know what I mean? But it's also true that Christian artists should probably focus on truth and beauty and goodness and biblical values. But there's also something poetic and nice about the use of symbolism. John mentioned C.S. Lewis. Kind of makes me think of the world that C.S. Lewis created. That quote that John mentioned, it says, "What we want is not more little books about Christianity, but more little books by Christians on other subjects with their Christianity latent." Here in The Unfolding, we decidedly tell Christian stories. Though it's not like an art-first medium, there is an art to it. One of the art forms that John mentioned was storytelling, and how he feels a call to good storytelling. And we feel that call as well. Matthew 13:34-35 says, Jesus spoke all these things to the crowd in parables. As you listened to John's story, maybe the idea of art stood out to you in your own life. How is God using you as a creator, made in the image of the Creator? If you've got a story about art and how God is using you to make art, I'd love to hear your story at wowgod.com/theunfolding. You can click the green microphone button there. You can also find a link in the show notes to hear more about The Unfolding or other Wow God Podcast Network podcasts. Just go to wowgod.com.